Kia ora, good morning. I've been up for a while. I'm actually mid having my breakfast. My breakfast is still sitting there on the side because I wanted to make this live while it cools down. But I've been thinking about an idea. It's a seed that I planted a long time ago, back when I still had students in my life. Um, but I kind of, had to drop everything in order to deal with the betrayal that the students then brought into my life. But that's not what this is about. I'm not living in the past. I'm digging up things from the past, ideas and things, because obviously I want people to keep coming back. I don't want people to come to my park, come to my, come to Faea, and then never come back. People have to say for years to go to Disneyland. We're not going to be anything like Disneyland, but there are people that save up to go back all the time. And it costs a lot of money, but they love it so much they put in the time and the effort to go back. I want people to be able to come back every weekend. I want families in Switzerland and France and Germany and Italy and Austria and all of that to be able to afford to come back every weekend or come back every month or come back a few times a year, because the foundation is a shapeshifter. It's a kaleidoscope. We offer one thing that becomes entirely new universes depending on which street you walk down, which park you sit in, which shop you go into, which endeavour you choose to engage in. It changes all the time. It's going to be changing all the time. If you come to us at the opening and you keep coming back every year for the next 20 years, the foundation is going to be changing constantly, changing, evolving, rising, 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 rising. Nothing we offer is going to stay the same. Like with Disneyland and other theme parks, they have, like Dream World and all of that, they have their rides, they have their attractions, and it's like that forever. Every now and then they'll change a thing, but it's pretty much the same. We're not going to be like that. Our buildings might stay the same, but the things that we put in them will change. Our entertainment venues and that will be there, but what we offer will change. Everything changes constantly. Everything will have a cycle, especially depending on the seasons, because it's how I created it. And one of the things that I was thinking about many, many years ago was a circus. Circus themed, freak themes. And I'll tell you why. You know, the flag that we're going to be flying is the one that I designed. It's the freak flag. I'm calling it the freak flag. And my freak flag will fly over any of my foundations, and there will be a freak flag outside all of my stores. The freak flag will be there, and it's to honour the freak, geek, nerd, dork, and weirdo who is helping create everything inside that magic ball, inside that crystal ball, inside that the fairy dust, the magic dust that's going to be coming out of my wand every time I wave it. It's to honour them. It's to say to the freaks, geeks, nerds, dorks, and weirdos, stand up, raise your flag, and be bloody proud of who you are. Don't let society or the world around you tell you that there's something wrong with you because you're odd or weird or different or seen as a freak or a dork or whatever. Our empire, my empire, our foundation, it's my empire, but it's going to be our foundation, is going to be the epitome of the magic and the brilliance and the genius that the freak, geek, nerd, dork, and weirdo creates when they all come together as a flock. And those freaks, geeks, nerds, dorks, and weirdos aren't just going to be staff. They're not just going to be mentors. They're going to be the kids themselves. And the reason why I'm getting goosebumps, the reason why I'm thinking circus is because my great great grandfather was a strong man in the circus, and he travelled Europe and Great Britain and all that as a strong man in the circus. And people thought he was Irish, obviously the Callahan, and I think it was my great great grandfather. It was one of my grandfathers on my dad's side was the strong man in the circus, like sort of Victorian era, sort of 1800s and something, and a lot of people used to go to him and his friends, you know, the bearded lady and all that kind of thing, and ogle and oogle and ooh, how can a man be so strong and all that sort of thing. I I'm pretty sure that if I went through circus archives, there's bound to be a photo of him somewhere. But my circus will be a little bit different because I'm not gonna bring in elephants and tigers and chimpanzees or anything like that, because obviously I'm I'm dead against that sort of thing. And I hate clowns, but I was seeing someone on X pay a tribute to Marcel Marceau, and it's like we can bring in mimes, we can bring in clowns as long as they're not scary, other than Halloween. Come Halloween, our circus attraction will be something altogether different. All bets are off when it comes to wholesome and nice and friendly. Come Halloween, I'm telling thee. So just don't expect to come to our circus at Halloween and it be all cotton candy and popcorn. But I'm going to be rescuing horses and donkeys and that, so we can incorporate them into the act. We can have gymnasts. We're not going to do anything dangerous like firing people out of cannons and trapeze acts and all of that, because it's dangerous. And I don't want to traumatise children. I've seen too many horror stories and seen too many things in history involving roller coaster rides and theme parks and circuses and that leave people traumatised and people dead. And I want people to come and it just be about wholesome family fun where the parents can come on the weekend because their kids have been good in, you know, Bern or Lucerne or Zurich or wherever, and they drive to come and spend the evening with us on the weekend, where they'll get their caramel corn and they'll sit down and they'll watch cats and dogs jump through hoops. Because what I'm looking for is I'm looking for people, you know, that girl that won Talent's Got the Idol Factor in Britain, with that dog of hers that could do tricks, and then they made a movie about the dog, and then the dog died, and blah blah blah. You know, we if there's people whose dogs can do tricks, we'll bring them in, and if they can do like a 10-minute act every weekend or every night for 10 minutes in the local area, then, you know, fantastic. And then we'll make sure that we have like magicians that can bring the audience in on their tricks, and, you know, they can put on you know, like musical numbers and make it fun. Do things with balloons, you know, making balloon animals while they're singing and performing silly acts and tricks and that sort of thing. I was just watching a Mr. Ballin episode where it was about a man in France who was murdered, and he worked in the circus industry. Now, I'm not going to be, apparently there was a lot of rivalry and all of that. I haven't gotten to the ending yet, because between that and the Marcel Marceau thing on X, it reminded me of a seed that I had buried long ago. And I remember saying to one, her name was Michelle, I remember saying to her, I want to honour my grandpappy and his friends who travelled Europe in the freak as a freak show. And I was saying about I wanted to have like a bar and grill where you could buy my beers and, you know, my booze and all that, and have big wholesome like cheeseburgers and cheese and bacon burgers, you know, loaded fries and nachos and all that sort of thing, and have like a circus themed bar and grill. where because I went to Ripley's, believe it or not, many times in Australia, because as I keep trying to tell everyone, the world around me inspires me. It helps me plant seeds, and I put files in the back of my head. And the thing with Ripley's, believe it or not, is that Ripley went around the world collecting all these oddities to put in his freak museum. Well, that's what I want to do. I want to collect oddities from the days of the circus, and from the freak shows and all that, because believe me, there's still some freak shows that go on around the world. Like, I want to collect oddities and like old posters and things like that, and if I can, turn it into a historical museum, a history museum, where it honours the people who put themselves out there because at the time they were fat, or a woman who was hairy, or someone, Siamese twins and that sort of thing, and turn it into a museum to honour them. Because without them, we wouldn't even have like the entertainment industry. We wouldn't have the movie industry. Freak shows inspired entertainment, bringing it into your home so that you didn't have to go out and see them. And so if I can collect oddities and weird things that go along with the whole circus freak show memorabilia, then I can turn it into like a little museum as well, in order to honour the people like my great granddad or my great great granddad. All I know is that my dad said he was a strong man in the circus, on the Irish side, on the Callaghan side. But I don't know if that was the Callaghan side or the Welsh side. I just know it was my dad's side. My dad never talked about his side of the family. We didn't know much. I had to discover stuff after he died. But his grandfather was Callaghan. His grandmother on his dad's side was Mary Walsh. So I don't know whether the strong man was on the Walsh side, on Mary's side, or on I think his name was William. It was either William, or was it William and Mary Callaghan? She was Mary Walsh. Anyway, so yeah, and then we can serve our burgers and like do big like ranch style chips. Then I can use all my dips, and people can sit around in a circus themed like restaurant, but where there's nothing dangerous. It's a great way to use some of the horses to do horse riding. If any of the horses can like jump, and we'll bring in gymnasts and magicians and clowns who aren't scary, maybe where they do silly things with mini cars, or but not the scary kind. Do mimes, but have it so that them performing involves the audience and brings kids down, and and put on great music and sell popcorn and candy corn, and then obviously have like have the restaurant, have the food bit, and the museum bit, and then have like a gift shop. So yeah, I completely forgot about that. It was just the Marcel Marceau thing the other day, paying a tribute to him, because he saved some Jews during the war. His father was sent to the concentration camp, and he used his thing as a mime. He changed his name to escape being caught, and then he saved a whole pile of Jews from the concentration camps, which it always gets me emotional. That sort of thing always makes me emotional, because it's unnatural, it's inhuman. We shouldn't be treating each other like that. But when you hear of the acts of bravery that some of the people did in order to rescue the others, you know, but Marcel Marceau, I grew up with him, watching him on TV. I remember him on the Muppets, and I think he was on the Muppets. I remember watching him on kids' TV. I'm pretty sure he was on the Muppets. I'm pretty sure he was. But I grew up watching him on TV. They brought him out on a lot of kids' TV, and I just thought he was wonderful. To me, he was the original clown. Like, to me, he was the clown. Anything that came after him paled by comparison, because they made clowns scary. I was taken to a circus when I was very, very little, around the time where I was almost kidnapped by the paedophile. I saw a chimpanzee in real life, and I remember just thinking, oh my God, chimpanzees are real. But then being really sad that this chimpanzee, which isn't native to New Zealand, had been brought all the way to New Zealand so that kids could be entertained, and it broke my heart. And then Marcel Marceau, because the clowns were scary, but Marcel Marceau made me not afraid of that kind of clown. And, you know, doing mime and all that is just, it's a skill in itself. And you don't see many now. So it's like, if people have got cats and dogs that can do tricks and jump through hoops, and they can put on like a 5-minute act, a 10-minute act every night or every couple of nights or whatever to entertain families and small children, then that's what we'll do. There'll be no, people won't be, we won't have Peter on our doorstep. But we'd mix it up so that the dogs and cats aren't working every night. We'd make sure that we had like a few, you know, so there's no stress on the animals. It's just for a bit of fun. Just like people auditioning for talent's got the idol factor with their dogs and their singing parrots and their cats. Bring them in. Wholesome family circus entertainment. Nothing that's going to be death-defying or dangerous. No flamethrowers, no anyone eating fire, nothing like that. Magic tricks, animals being silly, clowns being silly, mimes, balloon animals, that sort of thing. And I know, you know, once I go out there looking and I'm around the right people, they'll be like, well, what about one of these and what about one of that? This is me just replanting an old seed that had been hidden underground, because I had to deal with all that rubble when God tore my tower down. So, yeah. And I'm pretty sure there's like a famous clown school in France because of Marcel Marceau. I know there's a clown school in France. Maybe some of the people there might get wind of the fact that I'm going to be looking for, you know, silly clowns that can do silly things. Maybe I might be able to get stuff from these clown schools to put in my museum. I want to get like old posters, and just so that when people are walking into the restaurant or sitting eating at the restaurant, they can see the memorabilia, they can see it all up on the wall. They'll be eating in a part of freak history. People think I'm a freak. I get called a freak, a weirdo. But it's like, okay, whatever. I'm supernatural though. I tear people down just at the point of a finger, so if that's been a freak or a weirdo, well, whatever. I fly my freak flag high. I'm not embarrassed of what I am. I'm not ashamed of what I am, and nobody's going to tell me to sit down and shut up because they think I'm weird or a freak. or too odd. Whatever, my oddity's going to make me billions. And I'm going to rescue children from the society that is treating children exactly the same. We should be ashamed of ourselves with how we label our children with all these horrendous names like autism and mental illness names. They're weird, they're odd, they're freaks, they're different. Okay, so come with me, kids, and I'll teach you to raise your freak flag high, and we'll embrace our weirdness and turn it into gold. And when you leave, you will always have money coming in, because everything that you create, you will receive the royalties for the rest of your life. Where I'm writing it into the contract for any talent that we sign up, any kid who contributes to what we're creating that is an original idea or is theirs by original creation, they receive 100% of the royalties, and their future managers and parents will not be allowed to touch it. It's going to be written, well, I'm going to have lawyers specifically for protecting the royalties of the children and the money of the children, so that they can't be taken advantage of. Because I've been watching and learning from Hollywood and the music industry and people like Britney Spears and Gary Coleman and Corey Heyman, and it's not going to happen with us. None of that's going to happen with us. Gary Coleman's parents stole millions from him. He worked his ass off, and they stole millions from him. And you look at Michael Jackson's father and what he did to his kids, and Britney Spears and all of that. That's not going to be happening on my watch. For as long as my foundation's standing, my children are going to be 100% safe and their money guarded. I'll have the best lawyers to make sure that the royalties go only to the children. They can choose to have monthly payments, or they can choose to just save it until they're of a certain age to get it all out. But it will be only them that gets it all out. So, yeah, for all the kids out there that are labelled as being weird, odd, different, a freak, they'll feel right at home with us. So, yeah, let everybody else fester in their own shame and embarrassment and inadequacies. Well, we'll create fun in my foundation and entertain the world with our weirdness. So yeah, so that was another idea. Just thanks to Mr. Borland for triggering that memory, and Marcel on X the other day for reigniting the seed that had been planted. And then, like I said, come Halloween, whew, all bets are off. you'll need tickets to come to get into the circus. Well, I don't know. I mean, if it's all open play, we might not need tickets to get into the circus, but you will for the Halloween one. You will need to purchase tickets to get into the Halloween one, because we'll need to make sure that you're over a certain age. All bets are off come Halloween, I'm telling thee. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. I've pulled that little seedling out of the rubble of the fallen tower from the past, and it's sprouted into something quite beautiful. And then we get to sell beautiful burgers, big meaty burgers with like baskets of chips from our own potatoes and our own cheese and our own bread, our own buns. We'll do hot dogs, nachos. I'm pretty good at making like a loaded nacho, like pizza chips, which I learnt from the York Christmas markets. And then at Christmas time, we can do like a whole Christmas thing and bring Santa in, do like a whole thing. So yeah, so there we go. So then I get to employ people with even more new talents that I wasn't focusing on before. So there we go. Just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm getting more and more and more inspired by the world around me. I really hope, I mean, wherever it is that I build this, and even though I have that dream place that I have my eye on, and it comes with a lot of land, I hope it's enough land. And if it's not enough land, I hope there's something next to it that I can buy to make the land even more land. Right, so I'm going to go back to my breakfast, and I shall speak to you later. I am going to be worth the investment, I'm telling you now. I'm going to be investing a lot of my own money from my lawsuit, from everything that said students from the past did to me. But I'm also going to be looking for outside investors who are morally and ethically driven, not greed, not power, not control. They won't have any, they're going to be quiet investors. I'll give you this much money if you allow me to put this up or do this or change this. No. You either invest because you have faith in what it is I'm doing, and because you know that it's going to be saving a lot of children and saving a lot of children's futures, and bringing everyone together from all walks of life to help said children and to entertain the masses, or just don't invest at all. And everyone who wants to invest will have background checks for criminal records, for people around them who have had criminal records, especially when it comes to things like fraud, money laundering, and sex offences. And if they have connections to any of God's nemesis, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, that sort of thing, Bezos, Trump, God, any of God's nemesis, if they have any kind of connection in any way, shape, or form, they will be denied. I'm not that desperate for money. I'm quite happy to just start small and let the work invest in itself and use the money to slowly invest over time, over a period of 5-10 years, rather than be desperate enough to take money from people who God has put his foot down to, who God considers the enemy. So I'm more than prepared to take the slow road, because the slow road would be the high road, the moral road, rather than take the low road, because I'm desperate to hurry up and get it done. I'm not so desperate to get this all built to envisage my entire dream, that I would take money from people who are immoral and unethical and downright dangerous. If they have any connection to Epstein in any way, shape, or form, these are not people that will be coming near my foundation. I would rather have 1,000 people from the local area in France, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, who are small business owners, the bakeries and restaurants. I'd rather have them invest money. I'd prefer it, to be honest, than to have billionaires and millionaires come along and think, waha, I'm going to put a finger in that pie because I see the potential and I know how much money she's going to make in the future. Because the more I reinvest, the more I can build. Everything I make, I'm reinvesting, and I want to get to the point where I can have an animal sanctuary where we save animals of all walks of life, and my space program. My gaming chair is one thing, but when I can build a space program where I can put my gaming chair and the space program together and have an animal sanctuary, that's my end goal. When I can get those two things done, that's when I know all the steps that I took up to that, that's the end goal. That's when I know I've made it. It means that everything that I've created and planned and done has been checked off my list, with them being the end result. Once I get those two things up and running, that's when I know I can die happy, because I achieved all the goals that I set out in my business plan and my business model when I first came up with the idea to build that little creative art school for the inner city kids of New York with my soon-to-be ex-husband. That little seed with the Art of Creation Foundation. That's the name. That's what I was going to call the Inner City Art School, the Art of Creation Foundation, with my husband Martin. That was the seed that has turned into the empire, and it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. I just had to keep chopping it down. I had to keep setting everything on fire to burn it down to start again, because I was around people who were nothing short of evil. Evil people, bad, evil, sinful people in my life that were never ever going to be allowed to be around my original ideas. You saw what Chris had done with my oils and stuff. And then we had people like Elon Musk and that steal the Dear Satan clause, which they will be sued for, I can promise you that. But then it made me have to rewrite the Dear Satan clause, which ended up becoming 2 movies. So, out of shit grows roses. Good things come out of bad situations. If you can see the silver lining in every storm cloud, I'm telling you now, you won't be sorry. And my foundation is what I call the honeycomb system. So each drop of honey ends up feeding the next chamber, to the point where it's just going to be overflowing with the sweet nectar of creation. Creation is the nectar of the gods. And what I'm building is going to be overflowing with the sweet nectar of the gods, because of how I built my investment system, the honeycomb system. Everything ties into everything. So that's why I was saying, nothing, every year, everything that we put on changes. We're going to be having yearly LARPing and RPG festivals and all that sort of thing, but the stories will change, the themes will change, the events will change, and they'll just grow from there. And they'll grow because of all the people that come in to help me put their differences aside to have fun for the sake of supporting the children. It's all for the children. The second you walk through my gates, everything gets put aside, because you're there to partake in fun, to encourage the children. So, yeah. And my circus will be no different. We'll have like House of Mirrors and, innocent things. Because I'm trying to appeal. It's basically the older children, creating entertainment for young children, for little kids. Get them away from YouTube and their tablets and their phones and their laptops and all of that. These little kids, get them away from the TV and that, and bring them to the house of fun. Welcome to the house of fun. Now, oh no, no, that's about her house. That's about it. Oh no, that's about a house of ill repute. No, we're not that kind of house of fun. We're innocent fun. We're going to be fun. I want caricature artists and all that sort of thing. And bring out a dog that can jump through hoops and play dead, and put on silly little acts, and cats that are rude and obnoxious, and just like they're auditioning for Talent's Got the Pop Idol factor. So yeah, but where there's no, obviously, safety first, where there's no animals being overworked, and we'll offer donkey rides and cotton candy and all of that, but all within the guidelines of making sure nothing's overworked, because I love animals too much. And it's a great way to, if we're rescuing them, they won't be bored. We'll put on shows, like if there's cowboys that can ride the horses and do things with whips and all that sort of thing. Absolutely. 100%. Bring it on. So that's going to be our circus. just wholesome family entertainment. No danger, no threats to anyone's safety, and then just paying respects to people like my great grandpappy, who was once looked at as a freak in the freak show. I have a lot of respect for the circuses and the freak shows because of it. So we'll be paying homage. And like I went to Planet Hollywood, and when I went to Paris and saw all the movie memorabilia, and that combined with Ripley's Believe It or Not, it triggered something in me. I'm going to have an occult museum at the Amber Wilkinson School of Witchcraft anyway. That's all to do with the haunted, paranormal, supernatural stuff. But in my circus themed restaurant, I want to have memorabilia from circuses and the freak shows of old and present. So there we go. Another seed plant. Well, not another seed planted. It's a seed that's been dug up and sprouted. It's finally sprouted into something from 2022, was it? With Michelle. I remember telling Michelle about it. She was one of the ones who, yeah. Evil. Who knew? Anyway, well, God knew. But anyway, that's not what that's about. It's just the fact that she was the one I told the original plan to. She was the one that I told my original plan to have a mourning house as well, a tangi whare. And then my sister came along and said that that was her dream. And I was like, oh my God, I had already planted that seed with someone from my past, and showed her, I wanted the tangi whare to look like the mourning house, the hospice care house, to look like an old English thatched roof cottage. Might not be thatched roofed, but, like an old English cottage with a beautiful country garden, with an English country garden. Nobody does gardens like the English, I'm sorry. It's true. Right, so anyway, I'm going to go now because my breakfast will be cold. Well, I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō. In an English country garden. Put